Hey, welcome to the First Layer. This is Ask for Help, our weekly forum, I guess, where you can ask us questions about your 3D printing problems. As always, with me is Brian Baker. We're a little bit choppy on his video today, but I think his audio is okay.
Yeah, just want to make sure I'm not doubling back on your side. I just got vMix set up right before the show for audio clarity, but I just want to make sure that you're not hearing yourself coming through
Nope,
a loop.
I'm not.
So let me know.
I'm not.
Oh, rock on. Okay, yeah, I don't understand this vMix software sometimes, so you know what? Let me see if I can drop this just a little bit for you guys. Let's try that quality, see if I'm a bit more stable at that.
Yeah, you've kind of got that Japanese guy, got that Japanese out of sync thing going, but that's okay. Hey, listen.
Oh, is my audio behind?
Now it looks good. It was for a second,
perfect.
but now it looks good.
Yeah, yeah, it's my laptop. I'm working on a 4th gen i7 here, guys, with a dual core. And so vMix video encoding, it was not something that was fancy technology back then. So I had to drop the feed from 1080 to 720. Hopefully the audio is coming through clear. And now I've got to be the jerk. I have to step away for a quick minute to answer a business call. So Richard, if you don't mind soloing for a few minutes,
no,
I will be back. I will wave my hands whirly-dirly when I'm ready.
Okay. We've got a lot of things to cover today. We're going to take your questions as we always do on Saturdays. Or on Sundays, pardon me. Hope you guys got something out of yesterday's video. I did make a pronunciation error yesterday, and I was called out on it. Thank you very much. But I can't go back and change it now. So, we've got a lot of things going on today. First and foremost, we've got some wonderful pictures. I'm just going to pull them up here real quick. We're going to cut to this. And these pictures are from our good friends over at matter3d.com. I'm just going to scroll through them. And there you can see they are getting a brand new filament extruder, I believe that's what that thing is. And they have got a new line coming in. And there we go. And there's a couple of little videos getting it off the truck, but we're not going to worry about those at the moment. And that is going to be installed by the time I get out there the weekend after next, I believe. Yeah, weekend after next. I'll be there on the 31st for our live stream on Halloween Day. And I hope you guys are going to join us. We're going to draw another winner. Now, before we move into drawing our winner for our first mystery box giveaway, I want to let you guys know that if you're interested in getting some Matter 3D filament, Matter 3D right now, as it stands, TFL10 is the code to get 10% off. I believe that is what they are offering right now. Yes, 10%. This is an exclusive to our TFL customers. You can get 10% off your order from them. With free shipping in Canada on all sales over $35. So 10% off and free shipping over $35. So order a couple of rolls and it's well worth the money for you to go ahead and do that. So that is TFL 10 and that will give you 10% off your order and free shipping to orders in Canada over $35. So that is really cool. How cool is that? I'm a big fan of that. And now I can close that out. Let me just close that. And here's the next really cool thing. We're going to pick a winner. You guys want to pick a winner? I want to pick a winner. Yeah, we're going to pick a winner. No, I don't have to wait. I don't have to wait for nothing. There we go. I'm back. I don't have to wait for nothing. I'm going to pick a winner. Nope, I'm going to do it right now. Get it out of the way. I'm going to get it out of the way. This thing's... I am. My wife's arguing with me on a Sunday afternoon. I don't know why, but she is. So let me put that way over here. And we'll go back to that screen. Winner, 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 chicken dinner. Accord XTC says, yep, better to pick a winner than to pick your nose. it sure is. So here is the draw options. We have all the names in. All the names have been shuffled, and now we're gonna go ahead and pick it by random. Are you guys ready? Because I'm super stoked about this. Oh, sure. Now give out a code after I ordered already. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Going through all the names. William Shank is our winner. And William Shank, you have got our very first mystery box. William Shank. Everybody give William Shank a big hand, a woohoo or a clap. I'm sure there's emojis in there to do that. And he gets our first mystery box. Now, how we're going to do the second one is exactly the same way. What we're going to do is from yesterday's video on till the cutoff, we are going to put all those names back in a database, and we're going to send it up to these guys, and we are going to pick a winner. So our winner today is William Shank. Congratulations, William, on winning our very first mystery box. William, if you have not gotten in touch with me in the past, please send me your details to richard@thefirstlayer.com. That's richard@thefirstlayer.com. Alrighty. So Brian's not here, so I got to go in and put myself on the screen for a few minutes until he comes back and I can see him. So William Shank, congratulations. And you are going to be receiving our very first mystery box. There's some great stuff in there, including a sample of the TFL Purple PLA, which is currently now available on the Matter 3D website. It went up today. And if you'd like to order some of that for yourself, you can. And remember, 10% off using the code TFL10. I will put that in the chat right now. TFL10. There you go. There is the code. And again, everybody has a chance to win our next mystery box this month, which is going to be drawn on Halloween, October 31st. And that will be our last box for October. And then we start it all over again in November. And we start it all over again in December. So 2 mystery boxes in November, 2 mystery boxes in December. And we're going to give away 2 mystery boxes this month as well. So I'm super stoked. I can't wait to get all the mystery boxes put together. They all have something a little different. So there's a surprise in every one. William, hopefully you are going to be on the stream today. If not, I will try and get in touch with you somehow. If you haven't gotten in touch with me within the next 48 hours, next 2 days, William, then I will definitely showing not available. Cord XTC saying it's showing not available yet. I know that they have stock, so chances are that they should have it. I will contact them and find out. But if William hasn't gotten in touch with me in the next 48 hours, I will go ahead and draw another name. Somebody else might win this if William doesn't contact me. So that gets all the important details out of the way for today. Now we can get on to questions. Oh, Jerry has a question for us. Let's put it up here. Says, this is coming from our friend Dominic Versetto. He says, I bought a cheap tent enclosure for my Ender 5 to print ABS. Will I need to isolate the electronics for cooling, or will they be safe inside the enclosure? That's actually a really good question. I get this question a lot, actually. First and foremost, I would try and move the electronics outside if you can. If you can't, it's going to wear on them because of the heat that's generated inside that tent. But if you can vent out some of that heat, if the tent that you've got has some venting holes, that might help. But just keep an eye on it. I wouldn't do ABS for too long inside of a tent. with the electronics all in there, because heat can destroy electronics, just so you know. If you can get them out of there, great. If you can't, just keep an eye on it so that it doesn't overheat and then shut your print down in the middle of a long job, because I know how frustrating that can be myself. So I just want you guys to be aware of that, okay? Hopefully that helped you. All right, there we go. So we've got all of that out, and TFL 10, Dominic Versetto says, TFL 10. Yeah, go ahead and like and comment on this video at the end of the video. You can like now if you like. We really would appreciate that. I'm looking down at the chat here. We've got all kinds of people in there. Wow. Welcome, everyone. So, yes, if you're not subscribed, if this is your first time here, if you're a noob, and we would really like you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified every time that we do a new video or we go ahead and do a live stream. I got to do the rest of the what do you call it there? The schedule for the rest of this month. I am going to be in Victoria at Matter 3D on October 31st, so I'll be broadcasting live from there. I'm not sure how that's going to all work yet, but we are working on that. And on the 30th, you guys are going to get to see finally the end result of the Voron 2.4. We're going to discuss that on our Saturday video. Coming up this week, we've got some more resin for you. We're going to kind of walk you through getting started with resin and actually slicing a print and sending it off to the printer and what you're going to have to do and that sort of thing. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about safety in the third video in that series, as well as how to dispose of your used up material that you want to get rid of. So DeWitt says, hey, that's my birthday. Seeing the Voron will be a nice birthday present. Well, you're always welcome to come over and play with it. You know that. That's Tim from DeWitt 3D. You must bring cookies, Jerry says. I don't know why, but she says you must bring cookies. So, okay. All right. So what else have we got going on? Well, there's lots of stuff. I've got a whole bunch of new stuff. The website, I do apologize, is still not, the Shop the First Layer website is still not fully fleshed out or finished. I've got some tweaks I have to do to fix some things. But as soon as that is done, I will let you guys know, and we will, I should have it done by early next week. I just didn't get a chance to. Ben's saying that a tent type enclosure will not get warmer than 40°C. I run my CR-10S and an Ender 3 in my Creality tent enclosure using ABS or ASA, and the electronics don't have any issue. Okay, but I have seen, Ben, just so you know, I have seen people that have run machines with the electronics inside of an enclosure like that. And over time, it will wear on the electronic because they can overheat. Just so you know, be aware of that. So, every situation is different, and that's something that I get a lot of questions about. Why is my thing doing this? Why is my printer doing that? And I may not have issues with the same printer, or somebody else in our community may not have issues same printer, but then there's that one or two people that actually have the same issue. And the problem there being is that every printer that you print with prints a little different. You can't say that every printer is identical, even from the same manufacturer. I have found this to be very true in many brands, that they will all print just a little bit differently. And I've been doing this for 5-6 years now. And at the end of the day, I got to tell you that it is not one of those things that you can rectify. I use the same procedure on every printer to tune and get the printer running so that it'll print a great print. But sometimes they need a little bit more heat with the same material that I've been using across several other printers, or they may need more heat on the bed. They may need less heat, depending on. They may need a little bit of tweaking in terms of the wheels on the extrusion that are running up and down on the extrusion. You may have to adjust the Z rod. So every printer is just a little bit different, but you can dial them in and you can make them work for you. So, people are just saying hi to everybody. Well, we've got 27 people watching right now and 14 likes. If we had 27 likes, 27 people, that'd be awesome. I'll tell you why we're really pushing this right now. Your community involvement is because it really helps to get us seen by other people that are in the 3D printing space that may not necessarily know about our program that we've been doing now for 4 years. So every time that you come across a video, it's always helpful if you like and leave a comment, because that helps our metrics in the long run. And the more that the algorithm recognizes us on YouTube, the more people our program is exposed to. We've kind of hit a plateau right now, where we're just under 29,000 subscribers, and it's been a slow growth for the last little while. So we do want to try and get everybody to like and subscribe, and of course leave a comment down below. By just liking and leaving a comment, whether you're a subscriber or not, that will definitely go a long way into helping our metrics and get this program seen by a whole lot of other people. Snapshot FPV's got a question. He says, I recently put the Micro Swiss hot end on my Ender 3. All goes well until print gets to about 50 or 60 mils high. Then the extruder starts to click. Any ideas why? I think you might have the retraction set a little too high. With a Micro Swiss, I usually have mine set down right around that 2 to 3 millimeter retraction, or you can turn retraction off altogether if you don't mind a little bit of stringing. That would certainly go a long way as well. So yeah, I think it's probably having something to do with that retraction. Hey, we got a super chat from Pierre, $5. Thank you very much, Pierre. That goes a long way to helping us out. You will YouTube this Saturday at what time? Our brand new episodes come out every Saturday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So our brand new episodes, 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On Fridays, they come out late afternoon for our members. If you're not a member, there is a little button down there below this video that says join if you want to join and become a member and support the program and the efforts that we do each and every week, trying to bring you guys the best information that we can. So, yeah. Dennis Kelly says, starting to hear grinding noises on the extruder stepper motor seems related to using linear advance. What printer are you using, Dennis? That would be helpful, because some of the printers and some of the firmware, although linear advance is there, some of the boards don't take advantage of linear advance. So it might be related to that, and that would be the first thing that I would check to make sure that your board is compatible with linear advance. Not all boards are. Andrew Osmond, love your content and your answers to our questions. Thank you very much. We do appreciate that. Oh, I see Brian's back. Let me just turn on his audio. There we go.
Keep me silent. Good choice. Good choice.
There we go. Hey, Brian, there was just a question here about linear advance. He says,
Yes.
starting to hear grinding noises on the extruder stepper motor seems related to using linear advance on an Ender 3. And if you're using an Ender 3, that's going to be part of the problem right there. Because that board...
It can be.
The board itself, if it's
Yeah,
still the older board, it's not going to be compatible with linear advance.
Yeah, for sure. It's a computational limitation with the 8-bit boards for sure. You can do it, but to do a bunch of other features on the firmware. The reason for that, it's just how it computes. Now, the reason I haven't done my video on linear advance yet is because there's a lot of factors to take into account, and as boards develop, the whole criteria of it, if you will, is changing. So definitely, first recommendation if you do want linear advance is to go and get yourself a 32-bit board. We do like the E3D Dip, the E3D Mini, or sorry, I call them E3D. What are they called?
Dennis Kelly's using the SKR E3 Turbo.
Oh, okay, perfect. Then you got more than enough horsepower. Okay, so the next thing is then you're probably using Trinamics. Do you have interpolation turned on, and do you have stealth chop turned on? Both of those can contribute negatively, and this goes back to a few versions of Marlin ago, but they can contribute negatively to linear advance. So when you have interpolation turned on for your Trinamics, the result is a smoother motion, especially when changing directions and different things like that. But when you add in a linear advance factor and the motors don't know that linear advance is enabled, then it can cause clicking, skipping, all sorts of fun little things with linear advance. So what I personally do is when it comes to the extruder motor, I turn off both interpolation and I turn off the stealth chop, and that helps linear advance immensely. Back in the early days, if you had linear advance enabled with stealth chop, the motor would stall and shut off and stop moving altogether. Now that doesn't mean you can't use the feature on all the motors. You can still use interpolation on your X and Y, and I always recommend that people turn off interpolation on their Z, and the reason for that is because of how much the Z moves up and down, combined with the added weight. Unless you have your Z motors dialed in very tight, you'll start getting oscillations on those movements, and if you lift for a Z hop, you might start seeing banding on your prints that are non-uniform. When you see a layer skip, for instance, or a layer trip on a Z motor, usually it's at the same points going up, but this one will be all over the place. And so this, it goes a little bit more into the dialing in about the Trinamics, but the linear advance itself, just get rid of your stealth chop on your extruder and get rid of your interpolation. I think you'll find that although it may be a little bit noisier, your extruder motor, usually I notice a slight high-pitched whine if my motor voltage is a little too high. It's not moving fast enough to generate a lot of noise, and you probably won't notice a major change in your audible level for your prints, but you'll also notice by disabling stealth chop that your extruder is now going to have more torque with the same voltage as before. So it's kind of like a double win on that one.
Hey, I want to welcome Morgan Pierce back to our members family. He has joined us at the top layer and gave us a $10 super chat, says enjoy some coffee.
Ooh.
Well, thank you very much,
Super
Morgan.
chat.
We do appreciate that, very much so. Now we've got a question from World Planet Gadget. He says, after your tip, I have now a Micro Swiss all-metal hot end on my Ender 3 Pro, and thanks, what are the prints great? What are the prints great?
Well, are the prints good quality, or are they a different quality? Let's start off with that. Maybe if you can answer us in the chat.
I think probably he is.
It prints great. Oh.
It prints great.
If
okay.
It does print great, I'm so happy. I'm happy to hear that. If you take your time and understand what an all-metal hot end is, then in general you will have a better experience. But for a lot of people who try to skip some steps, such as adjusting your retraction settings to be way lower, you think that the all-metal hot end has ruined your printer because of clogs. But no, understand that going from a straight-up Bowden setup to an all-metal with a Bowden does require slicing program changes. Not like you don't have to go and change your firmware, but you do have to adjust your slicer settings for the new style of extrusion methodology.
I want to talk to Mikhail here really quick. Mikhail Wernerson is asking, he's getting lines when he does lithophanes. What is wrong? Okay, I do a lot of lithophanes. So normally when you put a print on the bed, it's going to give you the front face of your lithophane. What you want to do is either turn that to 45 degrees on the bed or a complete 90 degrees on the bed. What is happening is it's that Y motion that is causing that very thin little bit of material to do this. Okay, so when it moves forward, that full print is actually moving a little bit, especially the taller that you go. So if you just turn it on a 45 or you turn it completely 90 degrees, those lines should almost disappear completely.
And just one thing to add to that, lithophanes, you got to remember, detail is key on that. So even though you know, it may not appear so, you might actually have microscopic vibrations back and forth too, that make it appear to be a height issue when it's actually a wobbling issue. So I'm sorry, I know people like turbo lithophanes, but unless you have a kind of like a Core XY setup where the bed is moving, you want to reduce that kinematic load, and usually, you know what, if you're not messing around with your acceleration, you're going to be fine, because, you know, 500 millimeters per second squared is a fairly careful direction change, but try dropping 5 to 10 millimeters per second off your print. It's going to take longer, but detail here, not speed. It's not like a benchy where micro oscillations won't appear as apparently as they do on something like a lithophane, where every single motion counts.
Yeah, exactly. The next question here, is there a command I can send to my printer to turn the part cooling fan on without actually printing a job, just to test if the fan is working? Now, Ben Brady has put a answer to that in the comments. It is M106 space S0. M106 space S0. That is the command.
So S0, just so you're aware, is speed 0. 255 would be your max speed. So if you want to test a lot of things, this is one thing I do recommend to people, is if you're buying especially a blower fan, you want to find out what the airflow is like, because guess what? 100% when you upgrade these fans can be too much. And generally I see when folks go up to, say, a 50-15 fan, it blows so much air that you're actually going to thermal runaway your hot end, because it cannot overcome the cooling rate of a blower. So especially when you're changing out your fans, do it, you know, always, any change to your machine, do a test print, do a calibration cube, do a temperature tower, to find out what your new properties are with that hot end. And you might find, you know, with the fan, with some of mine, my max speed is only actually 50% of the fan output. And another good thing is, on the low end, you want to find out at what point it takes to overcome the resistance of the motor and even allow it to spin in the first place. Many of these fans will not spin until you're at least at 30% PWM output.
That's right.
So just do a quick test. You know, we do these I/O tests in the field all the time. Have an S0, S64, S128, S255. That'll give you a 0, 25, 50, and 100% blowing rate, just to find out where your margins are. And if you want to back convert that, I'm sorry, math on a Sunday, guys. Take whatever value you type in there, divide it by 255, and it's going to tell you, of course, multiply by 100, it's going to give you the percentage fan speed, and that number is the one you can type into your slicer.
Here's another question from Ricky B. What slicer settings do I need to change when you install an all-metal hot end? There are a couple of things you may want to keep an eye out for. Temperature is one of them. Retraction definitely is going to be another one of those concerns that you'll have. So depending on which one you have and who you got it from, just be aware that retraction and the temperature of the nozzle, your melting temperature, may go up a little bit on an all-metal hot end, because now you're no longer dealing with straight copper. You're now dealing with, or brass, you're now dealing with either stainless steel, or you're dealing with tungsten carbide. You know, higher grade metals require higher heats in order to perform properly. So just be aware of that. That might be a good one. There's some things here.
That applies to, sorry, just real quick, that applies to nozzles too, don't forget.
Yes.
So when you change your, even if you're not changing your hot end, if you're going for a nozzle, you know, we can go through them real quick. There's brass, there's stainless steel, there's hardened steel, then there's things like Nozzle X, there are the Ruby hot ends, there's all these different hot ends out there. Brass is used for two reasons. Number one, it's a very soft material, and number two, it's very good at heat conducting. Now, when you go to these harder hot ends, they will last you longer when it comes to abrasive materials. But with that, there's an addition of the heat retention factor. And at the end of the day, when we're talking about hot ends, we're reading a temperature within the block, but what we're concerned about is maintaining the temperature as it comes out of the nozzle. And as you are materials, as you're changing your cooling, all of these will factor into temperatures. And so there's a reason why a spool of filament gives you a range of temperatures that it can melt within. It's not because of inconsistencies in the material, it's within kind of a proven ground of where it prints on different configurations of hot ends. Now that's not to say that that band is going to encompass your particular configuration. I've had a couple machines where Matter 3D, I've had to print it as 240 degrees, not because of their material, that's because my particular machine has different operating parameters, whether it's the material, the rate of the fan, the quality of the thermistor, the quality of the resistor on the board that measures the thermistor. All of these factors, that's why we call these industrial machines. The configuration is not the same from machine A to machine B, even if it's at your home in the same environment with the same power. So that's why I'm sorry, this is gonna be our message again today. Print a temperature tower on the machine, and then save the settings for that machine, for that spool of filament. When you get a new spool of filament, run the same temperature tower, and then after 2 or 3 rolls, you'll know the consistency of the manufacturing of that reel and your environment. And based off that, I probably don't need to do a temperature tower. I know where my machine's going to run for this one. But if things start going and acting different than what you're used to, go right back to that temp tower. Is 5 to 10 grams of material out of a 1 kilo roll, so we're talking 5 cents. It's just a little bit of time, and it's going to save your butt in the long term. Trust me on that.
Now, there's one other thing I want to add to that. Be sure to PID tune that new hot end. If you don't PID tune, you could be running into issues. Now, really quickly, Amon Baines from Matter 3D is in our chat today, and he says they also have the purple available now. Thanks for your patience. And all our sale products will be shipped out on October 22nd. Just so you guys know that everybody is on the same page. And I would definitely go and check that. Again, it's TFL 10, all caps, to get 10% off your order. And orders over $35 within Canada are shipped for free. So be sure to check that out. And make sure that you give them some love, because they are a partner of this program, and they will be a partner of this program as long as this program is running, as far as I know. But right now,
absolutely. And this is not, this is not a sponsored message or anything from me, guys. But Matter 3D's repetitive consistency has diagnosed a lot of issues that I was skivvying around by having poor grade filament in my machines, and the end result is that I have a slicing profile now that works for my machines with their material, and consistently batch to batch it's been consistent. And that's why I mentioned about after a couple rounds of temp towers, this is why I like Matter 3D. And for those of you who didn't see the post, they are currently implementing their filament diameter measurement system, and just like the top ends like Prusa, really, actually, Prushman's the only one I think I've seen that's done this. You're going to see the consistency of the width of your material on your reel. And believe it or not, this is a very, very important thing when it comes to diagnosing inconsistencies on layer heights. A great example this week was, I guess 2 weeks ago now, I'm a little behind, but CNC Kitchen did a video about a printer that they had, that they were always getting inconsistent extrusion and they couldn't figure out why. And one of the things they proved out was the material diameter, and it ended up being something on their extruder. But you can't prove that sometimes unless you have a consistent reel of filament to start with. So Matter 3D is not only my printing material, it's my calibration material. And that's something to consider when you are trying to adjust from the baseline parameters on your machine. Is do not, I repeat, do not use cheap filament when trying to calibrate in your machine, because you will never be consistent batch to batch.
Why is there not more Ender 3 Max upgrade videos, Andrew Osmond? I'll tell you why. Because most of the upgrades that you're going to do on an Ender 3, Ender 3 Plus, or Ender 3 Pro, Ender 3 V2, Ender 3 Max are all exactly the same. The Ender 3 Max is a little bit bigger overall, but all of the upgrades are the exact same that you're going to find for anything in the Ender line. So that's why there's not more videos on it. That's my suspicion anyway.
We don't have one.
Yeah,
that's why.
we don't.
That's why we haven't been covering it yet. You know, the problem, guys, is that there are so many printers coming out all the time, and I don't know about your local market, but here in Canada, we've noticed there's not a lot of interest in buying, secondhand 3D printers, and because of that, you know, it's not as simple for us just to drop another $700 on a machine. Same thing as the machines we already have. And so Richard and I, you know, we've got our select machine specific criteria. I've got the Wanhao D6 for printing ABS. It's still the best ABS machine worked with. We've got our CR-10s. My CR-10S V2 is in pieces currently in its Voron rebuild state, but really, here I'm sitting in a hotel room. I can't be working on it right now, unfortunately. When I get back, maybe I think by January, I'll have something that I can share with you guys on that machine. But otherwise, it's just getting, you know, caught up on production requirements for the machines that we have. I have two Prussias, V1 that's in pieces, and another one that clogged up just before I left. And I wish I had the photo to show you guys right now. It was bad. So I haven't been able to print on that machine either. So I've got a bit of repair and tweaking work to do when I get back, but quite frankly, honestly guys, between August 15th and now, I have had zero spare time to work on any of my machines, and I truly mean zero time. For those of you who know, I haven't even really been home for like 2 days since mid-September, so hopefully, fingers crossed, things are working out this week that I'll be heading back in a reasonable time. But even right now, I don't know what's happening 24 hours ahead of today. So I apologize for the lack of, you know, updates and content and creative things from my perspective, but it has been unfortunately impossible to do any even remote printing because my machines are down. I've been watching a lot of things from cameras. You know, I've been sitting in my hotel and looking at my the camera of my printer and looking like, oh man, I'd love to be working on that right now. The nearest Canada Computers is over an hour away, so I can't buy technology in advance for episodes coming up, but you are seeing a little bit of lighting stuff I'm playing around with here in the hotel that's coming back with me, which is good. It's just kind of like an in-between state when it comes to producing the. So Richard is carrying everything 100% right now, and as you know, he's got a busy schedule too. So the TLDR after that whole ramble is Creality. Send us an Ender 3 Max, and we'll make some mods for you.
Exactly.
How about that?
Now here's a question for Snapshot FPV. He says, I know how to tune PIDs on my quads, but how is it done on a printer? What you have to first do is make sure that you can connect a computer to your printer. The best way that I've found is by using, what is that program called?
Well, I use Putty, but Pronterface is probably the best for printers.
Pronterface. Because in Pronterface, there is a really good way to connect to the computer or connect the computer to the printer, and then you can just run the G codes that you need to, first of all, get it to PID tune, and then secondly, how to input those numbers and store them so that they're there for your next print. Now, who has done a really good video on this, and I keep going back to him, is Michael Lee from Teaching Tech. He's got an amazing web utility tool that will help you to do a PID tune. And I would go and check it out. It's part of his GitHub calibration website. or a calibration page, and there's a lot of great stuff there. So I would go and check out Teaching Tech's calibration tool online, and type that into Google or whatever search engine that you use, and it will take you almost right there. So that it's a great little way of doing that.
And just, you know, I'm not going to go and give you guys a full spiel on PID right now. Now, I'm in industrial automation, so we use PID loops day in and day out. Here's a simple kind of check for you. Is unless you're running something like Octoprint where you can see the oscillation, it may be hard to see if your temperature requires a PID tune. Now, to be honest with you, for the most part, if you're watching your printer and you're up at temperature and your fan speeds aren't changing and all that, and you're maybe seeing your hot end temperature modify plus or minus 1 degree of your set point, so let's say if you're at 220 degrees, if you're seeing it move more than between 219 and 221, then it's worthwhile to look into the PID. That's not to say that if you're within that dead band that you don't need a PID tune. However, if you're within plus or minus 1 degree, you shouldn't require a PID tune to dial that in tighter unless you are specifically addressing heat oscillation issues. PID, for those of you who are just new to 3D printing, is a control means to try and pull a operating point, what we call a process variable or PV, right onto the set point or SV and hold it as close to that point as possible by modulating a discrete output up or down. It can be also used for things like analog control, but in our case, what we're trying to do is pulse on and off a signal that goes through our heater cartridge to try and make sure we're holding that temperature smoothly and not oscillating up and down. If you oscillate up and down consistently too much at a very small level, your material may be more sensitive to a temperature change than you think, and as you're printing along your line, one part may be more liquid and one part may be more solid, and the end result is inconsistencies in your print. So PID tuning is a way to dial in inconsistencies on your extrusion as it's moving through, but if you're plus or minus 1 degree, you're probably in a pretty good place to begin with.
There you go. We are going to be doing a video on PID tuning as part of our, not reviews, but our tutorials section coming up in November. So I will be walking you through how I do a PID tune. I'll be showing you Michael's website as well. I'll be showing you Pranaface and exactly how that's all done. Local Maker MI, or my, Local Maker My, says Matter 3D is really great filament, and I got to agree because I've got a roll of, guess what, purple right here in front of me. So this stuff is not shiny at all. It's very matte. It's a little darker than what our previous version was, but I got to tell you, I really, really like this filament. Their winding has gotten so much better than it was in the beginning. When they first started out, it was, you know, like other winds, but they've really dialed in their winding now, and I got to tell you, it is amazing. The quality of this has been sitting open now for about a week. And
yeah, shame on you, Richard. You're breaking all the rules that
I am, but I'm going to show you why I'm breaking all the rules. Okay, so I'm going to unwind a little bit here so you guys can see it. Now, normally, this portion is going to be very brittle, but look at that. I got to still do this. Like, it's not snapping off. So that is a sign of really good quality filament when you get it. And like I said, I always do this with filament anyway because I want to see exactly how good it is. If I can do that, and that's near the end where it's going to be the most brittle. If I do it here further down, let's try and do a foot. There we go. That took a while. I had to snap that pretty good. You can see the bend that I started to make, and then I quickly snapped it off. But that is a sign of some decent filament right there. So I got to tell you guys that if you are interested in getting any filament from Matter 3D or any high-grade filament, Matter 3D is definitely one that we highly recommend. Local maker says he's printing with Matter 3D right now on his Prusa Mini. Fantastic. We love to hear that. That's going to be going into the dryer before I make some samples of it for you guys. And I got to tell you that I'm going to print with it first before I put it into the maker box that'll be going out. Can I safely run a 24 volt LED strip off my printer's power supply? Yes, you can. As long as you're...
Yes. that's the caveat.
That,
safely, yes.
Yes,
but
you can.
Do you recommend it? That's a bit more of an in-depth question. Richard, I'll let you go first because I can talk hours about electrical theory here.
Yeah, well, let's not confuse people. So first and foremost, yes, you can. You can wire them directly in so that they come on and off with your power switch. Now, do I recommend that you have the lights on all the time? No, because it's just unnecessary. They're low voltage, so they're not going to take a lot of voltage. But at the end of the day, you can burn them out pretty fast. Now, LEDs do have a fairly long shelf life. However, when they're on constantly, it's just a waste of energy. What I would typically do is I would put in an inline switch so I can turn them on when I need them, turn them off when I don't need them. It's not drawing any additional power off the power supply that I might need for something else, depending on the printer that you're using. And you guys have seen me do them before where I had a strip across the top of my CR-10. I had 2 rows of LEDs. And over time, LEDs will dim a bit. Something that people don't know, and I've seen this happen. Over a long period of time, they'll start to dim just a little bit, much like a CFL over time will start to dim a little bit. And having them on all the time is just unnecessary in my mind.
Yeah, so there's 2 basic questions that I have seen repeated over and over again about electricity in general with 3D printers. And I just kind of wanted to address them because it does lead into this LED question. Number 1, I've seen a lot of questions of, oh, if I buy a 600 watt power supply, am I going to blow up my board? The answer is no. A power supply has a maximum capacity. However, the amount of power it delivers is defined by what is downstream of it. So when you buy a 600 watt power supply for your printer, and let's say your printer only draws 350 watts, it's only ever going to deliver 350 watts. And in fact, because of its higher capacity, it's probably going to be more energy efficient in how it does that AC to DC conversion when you're pulling a smaller amount. Now, the reason I wanted to briefly mention that is because we need to take a look at what the power supply can deliver effectively. So most of our printers come with a 350 or 360 watt power supply. And I haven't done the video yet because I'm still doing the calculations for all of you. But in general, a printed heat bed draws between 220 and 250 watts when in operation. And that's not to say that it's always drawing 250 watts of power. It's actually modulating. So it gets a little more complex in there. However, as you add more consistent loads onto the power supply, especially the good quality ones such as Meanwell, you may hear the fan kick on. That's because it's trying to keep the power moving at that higher load than what it's expecting, and the fan is to cool the components in there. However, you may notice a small change in the sound of the fan, and if you're hearing the fan going at a certain speed and the frequency drops a little bit, that means that it's getting so loaded that its power regulation is pulling back a little bit to protect the circuitry, basically. When you hear something like that, you're going to start to notice print quality inconsistencies. And the reason for that is because it's trying to pull back the available power to the end devices by reducing either voltage or current at a very small level, but enough that can change the properties of your printer. So for those of you who've gone from a 12 volt printer to a 24 volt printer, you may notice how it operates a little differently. Now, when you go from 12 volts, and let's say your power supply is getting overloaded to 11.9 volts, things such as your PID loops, which are expecting a certain rate of change, are now dealing with a slightly different rate of change. Same with your part cooling fan, same with your steppers. And in extreme circumstances, you might see skips and stuff in your prints, but it's going to be a very small change on that. But the key point I'm trying to make here is if you start adding all of these peripheral accessories to a power system that was spec'd and designed for no additional load, you may find that it could adversely affect your print quality. So at the end of the day, honestly, you go onto Amazon for 10 bucks, even 20 bucks. You don't have to get an industrial grade power supply to run LEDs. You just need like something that can handle 20 watts, 24 watts, which is like 1 amp, and that's more than enough power for the whole circuit. At my house, what I've done is I've actually bought what are called cob LEDs, and they have their own power supply, a own 120 volt feed input that I plug in independently of the printer for lighting up my machine. And because of that, I know that when I switch my light on and off, I'm not changing the load on that power supply, so that therefore my printer will continue to print the same whether the light is on or off. Bit of a boondoggle there, but I've seen a lot of people adding on electrical accessories, things like even Raspberry Pis are in the worst case scenario. You're adding a lot more power load to that power supply than was expected, even with buck converters and all that stuff. Anytime you add this stuff on, I highly recommend feed it its own independent power from its own receptacle on the wall or power bar or whatever. Try to avoid daisy chaining off your printer's power supply, because as with any cost savings, they're going to put in the power supply that meets the requirements and nothing more. You'll be lucky if you get a 10 to 15% overhead.
All right, so let's move along here. DeWitt Canada says, thank you very much. You are always welcome, Tim. World Planet Gadgets, he says, I see some videos on smoothing FDM 3D prints with resin. What do you think about this, good or bad? Let me give you my take on this. If you've got UV resin to 3D to smooth your prints, yes, you can use it. B, it's messy. It can be very messy because the thickness of UV resins vary from brand to brand. Some can be thicker, some can be thinner. Some, are water washable, but they're all UV curable. Now, if you're going to use a resin to do your prints, my recommendation to you is to use something like XTC 3D, which is by Smooth On. This is a 2-part resin that you mix up. It's a little thicker. It's not UV cured. It'll cure all on its own. It does have a bit of an odor, however. Now, if you want to put thin coats on, which is what I recommend that you do, so it doesn't obliterate detail in your print, is add a little bit of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol to it, not the kind that you drink, the kind that you put on your cuts and bruises, but you don't want to put your good Jack Daniels in there because it may not work. But you do want to use isopropyl alcohol and just thin it out a little bit. Put it on in thin layers. When you do mix it, though, mix it and then pour it into something that is wide and flat. Don't leave it in the cup because it'll do what's called flashing. And when it flashes, that is it starting to cure. And the smaller the cup that you mix it in, the faster it's going to flash. So you want to mix it, pour it directly into a flat tray of some sort. You can easily make one out of tin foil. Take your brush, dip it in, and then paint whatever you're going to try and do. Now, there's several other ways that you can do prints if you're doing helmets. Our good friend Ben Eady, who has recently been featured on Adam Savage's Tested on YouTube quite often in relation to stuff that he's been doing with him for Ghostbusters. Ben recommends using a flat scraper like you would for wood if you're scraping off excess glue or something along that line, or you're shaving off an old finish. Those scrapers work very well to kind of flatten out that shape, and then it's very little sanding, very little filling after that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to use any type of resin, I don't want to waste my good, expensive $49 to $69 UV curable resin. I want to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to use something like XTC, which is about 30 bucks, I think, for the small one, and it's 60 for the bigger one. You don't need much at all, to be perfectly honest with you, to cover a 3D printed helmet or, you know, any kind of cosplay armor or anything that you're doing. So just something to keep in mind. And once you open it, it does have a limited shelf life, so keep that in mind as well.
Oh yeah. And just to add to that, even XTC might be overpriced for what you're trying to achieve. So XTC is by far the greatest product we've found when it comes to preparing a print for its final presentation. So if you have, let's say you've printed I don't know, in my case it was a figure of Luke Skywalker. It's actually down at the Western 3D booth there. But it came off the machine, it looked quite lovely, but it just needed I sanded it just a little bit, but then I liked the blue color and I wanted that of the filament to pop. So I used XTC because it smoothens the surface, but provides a firm finish on top afterwards, so it was quite shiny. But if my intention was to paint it afterwards, then I'm not really needing that grade of XTC. So a common one I've seen people use is wood filler. Wood filler is a great filler for filling up layer lines because it's also very sandable afterwards.
Sure is.
So a lot of filling you're going to find, filling is not a one-step process if you're really going at it. It's usually a fill, sand, and then prime and paint. And so wood filler, being as cheap as it is and easily workable, the only downside to it is the time it takes for it to effectively dry. And so when you're doing the fill, sand, the first few times, you can go and fill it and let it cure partially for a little bit, and then sand it while it's still soft to try and get those microscopic grooves, and then do your additional fill there, and then let it dry longer for the full curing period, and then sand prior to priming and painting. Because in this case, what we're doing is, and the reason why we recommend this is because you're adding material that can then be sanded off. Your model, you can skip that step, but it means you're going to have additional outer walls on your print because you're going to be removing material. So we want to try and fill the holes with the wood filler and then sand off only additional little peaks of the material. You want to try to be sanding purely wood filler and not your PLA material or whatever. And these materials, as I said, like wood filler, are designed for end use at the end. They might not have the impact resistance of a resin coating at the end, but if you're really going for that product finishing, you're going to fill, you're going to sand, you're going to prime, you're going to paint, and then you're going to seal. You're going to put a top coat on that of a clear sealer that has that resilience of what XTC would have, or you may sand it, paint it, and do all that, and do your clear coats, and you may still put XTC on top of that. You know, you can always keep layering this stuff on, but you have to understand how the materials interact with each other. Again, that's a bit of a ramble. We're going to be featuring this soon in the future once we get the ideal weather conditions, if you will, to go through a process like this, because Alberta is very difficult, especially now, this time of year when it comes to painting due to the cold temperatures.
Andrew Osmond, I have some issues with my CR Touch. I can't seem to get the startup G code to show up in a large enough to make a edit. How do I enlarge this area to enter my G29 code for saving my mesh? What you're going to do is, if you're using Cura, all you're going to do is go into where your start and your end G code is, and then hover your mouse over the bottom of that window and just pull it down, and it'll start to reveal even more. So that's all you have to do, and then when you find G28, just put G29 in right afterwards, and that's really simple. Now there's a question from the Bosk, and that's going to be our last question because we're running out of time here. Jerry, can you pull that up?
Which one?
The Bosk.
And I apologize, guys. My window of the text at the bottom is like itty bitty big, so I have to rely on Richard to read these questions out to me. Sorry about that.
The Bosk says, I got the stripped fan screw out, replaced the stripped nozzle block, and nozzle wouldn't come out even after I pulled it out. It was stripped. I don't have to buy a new printer yet, thanks to you guys. You're very, very welcome. We're glad that worked. We're glad that worked for you.
Yeah, so if that nozzle's still stuck in there, that is tough. what I've done if I'm really, really having a bad day, which is generally when I'm replacing a nozzle, you can go to the level of taking nozzle out to a piece of brick, heating it up with a blowtorch, and then clamping it down and removing it with, a plumber's wrench or something like that if you really go at it. At the end of the day, though, if you've got the block off and all that, it might be worthwhile just to check on Amazon and see how much a new block costs if you can get the cartridge and the thermistor all out, because it might just be $10 and it might be cheaper than the time it takes to remove it to that extent. Yeah, these brass nozzles stack and they strip very easily. As I mentioned earlier in the show, brass is extremely soft. And when it's that bad, you usually need to get it into a vise, heat that area right where it connects through with a blowtorch, and then take a good pair of plumber's pliers, torque down on that on the nozzle, very slowly back it out of the hole to save it, and then your nozzle's getting tossed out. If you ream too hard, you snap it off. It's not worth to try and trust me on that.
One more question here, and we're going to wrap things up. This is from Mr. Camo 1024. He says, "Why does my hot end spit out filament before the G code starts?" It's because what happens is when it moves, everything that's in that tube is moving as well. So it's always going to spit out a little bit as it gets hot, and because there's also back pressure that builds up in the hot end. So it's nothing to worry about. Just take your little tweezers and pop it off. I get it all the time. It's just a necessary byproduct of 3D printing. Mm-hmm. All right, so that wraps.
Just to add to that, I mean, you're just dealing with material dripping out as a result of gravitational force. Unless you can create a vacuum inside that hot end, which is giving me an absolutely terrible idea for a future episode to try, you're always going to have that filament drip down as there's air below it, there's air above it, and there's a path for it to drip up. So how can you solve that? Maybe try starting that print 10 to 20 degrees cooler. And just work your way up. Again, the temperature tower will show you the minimum temperature you can print at, and if you can get it right to the point that its own weight doesn't allow it to turn to a liquid form and drip out of the nozzle, then you're going to reduce that, and it's also going to reduce stringing. So, quick tip for you.
All right, so we're going to wrap things up now. It's a little after 1. First and foremost, William Shank was our winner of our first giveaway for our last quarter of the year. Congratulations again to William Shank. If he gets in touch with me in the next 48 hours, we'll leave this all over social media so he can try and get a hold of us. But if he hasn't gotten a hold of us in the next 48 hours, we will draw another winner. That'll be the first mystery box. We got another mystery box coming out at the end of the month while I'm in Victoria at Matter 3D. And speaking of our friends over at Matter 3D right now, with the coupon code TFL10, you'll get 10% off your order, and orders in Canada that are over $35 qualify for free shipping. And the TFL purple is now available on their website. It has been confirmed by Amin, and we'll get some more of that out, and our first box going out will have a sample of that purple PLA. So I thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you to everybody that asked questions. Thank you to everybody that contributed to our show with their questions and with their super chats. It goes a very long way. Please give this live stream a like. Leave a comment down below after the live stream is ended. It goes a long way to helping our show get seen by more and more people. It works in the algorithm to our favor so that YouTube recommends us more often. So again, thank you to everybody for joining. Thank you to Brian, even though he was gone for a little bit. Thank you. He is still working out in Ontario.
Work, guys.
Yeah. So, we will see you guys again this coming Friday night for our members, who will get our episode a little bit earlier than regular people do. And if you want to become a member, you just hit that join button and find out how to become a member. All of our members, just so you guys know, are automatically entered into any giveaway that we are doing. And everybody else has to work to get entered. Work for it to get entered by hitting that like button, being a subscriber, and also having a comment down below the video. So until we see you guys next week.
Just pretend this is a bell, guys. Just remember this is a bell. Just, ring that notification bell. Know when we go live.
Yep, you bet.
That's my high-tech fix here.
So I'm gonna see if Brian knows the tagline. Till we see you next week.
Okay. Remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye. And we're out.